Hi guys, thank you for attending the training last week. I'm not entirely sure we covered the Fortress in sufficient detail for you to be able to go away and comfortably open them, and time didn't really allow us to cover everything that I wanted to. But what I'm going to show you is on the Fortress, if we put the pick in and turn it in the lock-in direction until it stops. Now, if you take your standard wire that you use for opening, say for example this lock here, the bolts on the left, so we have this left hand picking wire, but if we pop it into the pick on the on that side of the flute, not the top of it but the bottom of it, I'm making a bit of a pig's ear of this. Let's try again. So put the flute, that's it, put that in there, and then you can probably see the wire is, I wonder whether I can zoom in, there we go. You can see that the wire is actually underneath there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hang this pick handle vertically downwards. And then if we take the pick wire, go on, in you go. There we go. Now, as you probably discovered in nearly all the training, I kept talking about the orientation of the of this lollipop, if you like, the puck or whatever. Now, I've got free movement backwards and forwards. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push that to the very back, so we're on lever 5, and I'm going to turn this until it hits the belly of the lever, which is there. And if you look at the angle of that, you can see that this angle here is showing me about just over 45 degrees. And then if I pull it forward onto lever 4, and you can see that I can't actually pull it forward, I need to rotate it, which means that the next lever is actually, the belly of the lever is lower. So if we go there, just pull it forward a bit, and it's a little bit of a balancing act, there we go. That's the belly of the next lever. As you can see, that's more like 40 degrees. And if I come forward one more now, come forward another lever, please. Because of this ABA pattern, basically that is going to be the same as the previous lever that was in there before. So we've got this angle which is over 45 degrees. We've got an angle that's under, then we've got another one that's going to be the same as lever 5. I appreciate this is not in focus, by the way. Let me just do that and see. There we go, that's in focus. Okay, so basically we've got quite an upright angle followed by not quite so upright and then an upright angle. So let's go to let's go all the way to lever 1 and have a look, and you can see that's quite upright as well. I'm not pushing this hard. If I push it hard, then I can influence it. All I'm doing is just bringing it up until it just rests against the belly of the lever. Okay, so there, as you can see, it's going to be there somewhere. So we've got this roughly the same angle as we've got at the back. And then if I try and push that onto lever 2, it's being obstructed. So then if I turn it, and so I can get onto lever 2, which is there, you can see how it's quite a shallow angle altogether. So what are these angles telling me about the back of the levers on this Fortress? Well, what they're telling me, and what you can establish yourself, is that if we go all the way back to lever 5 again and have a look there, when you're at this sort of angle, just over 45 degrees, you're getting towards a high lift lever, but not quite high lift. So this is going to be like a, remember there are 7 levers in this lock. Lever 7 is down here, which is like the lowest lift, and lever 1 is about there, which is the highest lift. So if that's lever 1, that's lever 2, this is lever 3, and that's quite important because only levers 1 and 2 in the Fortress have anti-pick notches, and those anti-pick notches come before the true gate. So when you lift the lever up, first thing it will do is it will engage into anti-pick, and then you lift it out and it'll go all the way up to the true gate. But that's only on levers 1 and 2. So where the angle is like that or like that, that's levers 1 and 2. And then levers 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 all have the anti-pick after the true gate, which means if you were to lift it to there and then lift it slightly higher, what you're going to do is you're going to take it out of the true gate and put it into anti-pick above. And this is where good tension control on these locks is really important, because if the lever's binding and you're lifting it and you're holding a great big handful of tension, it'll suddenly release and it'll jump up and it'll go into its anti-pick. So you need to be able to feather the tension, and it's a skill set that comes with picking fortresses. You need to be able to feel the resistance and then just feather this tension backwards on the handle, so that the lever starts to move freely, or you're not actually putting a huge amount of rotational force on here. Because if you put lots of rotational force in there, then what's going to happen is the lever is going to jump. And when it jumps, we end up with undesirable and uncontrollable results. So whenever I come across one of these out in the field, first thing I do is I'll put the pick in as I've shown there, put the wiring in the bottom, go to lever 5, have a look at the angle, lever 4, try and pull it this way. If you pull it this way and it moves freely, and maybe even jumps to further angle, then you know that you've got a high lift and then an even higher lift. In this case, we've got that, followed by that, followed by that, because that's ABA, followed by that, followed by that. So this lock loosely translates to 3, probably 5, 3, I would say that's potentially a 6, and then finally at the end there we go back to a 3 again. So if I was a betting man, I would say that this lock doesn't have any high lift levers, judging by the angle of this puck. And if it did have high lift levers, we would have seen a completely different result from this. So what I'm going to do, let's just turn the curtain all the way around. Let's pop the pick in to there. Okay, right, let me just rotate this around so I can actually get to the pick. And I'll just set the focus, there we go. So what we know of this lock now is that we've got a high lift, a low lift, a high lift, a low lift, and a high lift, effectively. That's what I'm expecting. And what I'm also expecting is that none of these levers are going to go into anti-pick unless I lift them too high. So now, one of the things that we discussed on Wednesday was that when you're picking a fortress, always pick the back 3 levers first. And what will happen is when you've picked the back 3 levers successfully, you will get a little jump on the bolt, probably no more than that. And that little jump on the bolt then tells you that you have successfully set the back 3 levers, and then you've got the 2 at the front to deal with after that. So be very mindful of where this is when you're picking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see whether we can actually record this jumping. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that actually. There's no way, there's no visual reference for us to use. But when it jumps back, I'll tell you. In fact, let's see if I can find. Got some. I thought I had some tape on my desk. My desk is an absolute shit tip. Oh, here it is. Got it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this bit of tape just there. And what you'll notice with that bit of tape is there's a slight gap at the bottom there. And then when it jumps, we're going to do a comparison and see how far it jumps in. Okay, so I'm going to apply a light tension on this. And first thing you're going to do, always good practice, check you've got the clear run of the pack. You can hear that the pick is actually hitting the bottom of the lever bellies. But but I do have a reasonably clear access there, backwards and forwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just test the undersides of these levers. So there's lever 5, and as you can see, lever 5, it's just not binding, there's nothing there. Let's go to lever 4, which we know is a lower lift, and okay, lever 4 is binding. So I'm going to shut up now, and if you just see if you can hear, there's a little click then. It's still heavily bound. There. Okay, so that has just set, and actually the bolt moved back a little bit already. So let's go to 5. Sounds like it's already set. I don't know how. 4. If you look at how I'm doing this, just fingertip, you can hear it tapping. Let's go to 3. Okay, 3 is heavily bound. So now I know this is a high lift, but not too high. And what I'm going to do is it's heavily bound. So I'm going to relax this hand and allow it to start to move. Now it's moving now. The lever's going up. And I'm expecting this lever now to set and the bolt to jump back. There. Okay, so it's set. Now if you look at the gap on the bottom of that tape now, it's gone. So the gap where it was before. So this bolt has actually jumped back in, and I've felt this handle rotate round. That is really typical of the ERA Fortress when you're picking it. So as you saw, I didn't do big movements. I've done very gentle movements, and I've only picked the binding levers. But if we had, now that's jumped, if we now test the levers, so just a little relaxation there. So lever 5 is tapping, lever 4 is tapping, and lever 3 is tapping. So they're all tapping because those 3 levers are in their true gates, as evidenced by the bolt jumping back. So what we're going to do now is look to see whether lever 2 or 1 is bound now. Let's try 2, which is a low lift. Okay, so this is really bound up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently move that again. I'm going to be quiet again. So it's going up very slowly. I'm relaxing my hand. When the bolt jumps back, by the way, it gives you a little bit of leeway on the tension. You don't need to hold it quite so hard. Okay, have a listen to that. You can now hear that lever 2 is tapping, and I've hardly moved the puck at all. So the angle on the puck, so there's 5, 4, so high lift, low lift, higher lift, low lift. So in theory, this should just leave me now, lever 1 to get the lock open, which we know is a high lift from the decode. So let's just lift that up. Okay, so it's going up. Come on, up you go. So let's just check what we're doing. 5, 4, 3, 2, and lever 1. It's been a pain to get underneath it. Okay, there we go. So we've got underneath lever 1, and we've got the lock open. And that is basically how the vast majority of Fortress locks will pick. So just to recap, you can do a visual decode on it, so you know, as a minimum, you know what you're dealing with, highs and lows. And then you can, once you know that, you can then start picking it with confidence that you're roughly where the anti-pick notches are. Set those back 3 levers and you get that little jump on the bolt. And then that only leaves you 2 other levers at the front for you to worry about. And if you've already worked out whether they're low or high lift, then you can pick those out as you saw and get the lock open in a single run there. I didn't have to go backwards and forwards over it a lot. The only reason I went backwards and forwards over that was just to check that the levers that I'd already put in gates had stayed there. So that's Fortress. Recap basically, and all of the techniques that we learnt on Wednesday were implemented there. So good tension control, not holding it too heavy, not holding it too light, reading the feedback on the levers, and knowing, before we even started, knowing what we were dealing with inside this lock. It all helps, it all conspires to give you a good picture. So let's do one more very quickly. Let's take this lock out. Now what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to put, where are we? Okay, here's another Fortress. And so let's do a quick decode on this. So turn the curtain in the locking direction, pop your wire in underneath the central flute, and if we hold it there like that, there's me knocking the camera, apologies. Right, what I'm going to do now, let's just change the focus so we can see what's going on with the puck. All the way back to lever 5, turn the puck, and there, look at that. Can you see that angle? That's gone beyond 45 degrees. That could potentially be a high lift lever, as in a 2, as opposed to where it was there just now, which was a 3. So we'll call that a 2. We'll pull this towards us onto lever 4, and you can see that it won't pass. So I'm going to twist it. There's lever 4. So there's the angle on lever 4. It's 45 degrees. So that's possibly going to be a 5. So we've got a 2, a 5. Next lever should be a 2 again, which is there. So you can see we've got that sharper angle. And let's come to the front of the lock. Oh wow, look at that. Okay, so we've got a really upright. In fact, that's probably more 2 than the ones at the back. Let's just keep that in mind. Let's go to the back and have a look at the back. Back lever is there. Front lever is there. Oh, okay. So it could be. It's going to be something like a 2, 5, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, so it's ever so slightly different. So okay, well maybe there. So I'm going to say that the 2 front levers are high lift and all the back levers are low lift. In other words, the levers on the back, true gate falls before the anti-pick notch, and then the 2 levers at the front need to be lifted beyond the anti-pick notch. So let's give that a go. And obviously with experience and time, you'll be able to work this out for yourself by knowing what you've got inside the lock. So let's pop the wire into the correct side for picking. And I won't put the tape on, but I'm expecting it to jump again. So let's have a little. Let's lift. Lever 5 is a relative. So I've got full access to the pack. Lever 5 is a relatively high lift, and it's binding. There, it's released. It's hard to say. There we go. So I'm going to memorize the angle of that puck, because that's the same angle that I need to operate lever 3 with the ABA pattern. Let's do lever 3 now. Lever 3 was heavily bound. Let's lift it up. Okay, let me try that a little bit more. Yeah, I think I've overlifted lever 5 there. So we look at where the lever starts, which is there. We look at where the lever finishes when it's lifted, which is there. So that's maximum lift, and that's minimum lift. So if it's a low lift with the anti-pick notch afterwards, then we don't need to lift that anywhere near as high as I did just now. So there's where we need to lift it to. Let's go to lever 3. There. So those 2 are the same. Let's go to lever 4. There's 4 in its gate. 5's in its gate. 3 is in its gate. Okay. Let's see whether the front levers are bound. I haven't felt a jump on the bolts, and as you can see, lever 1 is loose, and lever 2 is the one that's bound. Lever 2 is bound, so let's lift that up. Okay, so that's all the way up. Lever 1. So basically, because these front two levers aren't binding, I know that something is not quite right at the back here. So let's try the back again. Just do a reset, try again. So there's 5. There's 3. Okay, that's definitely 3 setting. Look at that angle there, and we need to mirror that with 5, which is there, and then we'll pick 4. So yeah, we're doing all right with that, I think. 5. Still haven't had that jump. Patience is the name of the game here. That's just released, so it's bound up to a point and then it's released. I would expect this to have, I would expect this to actually jump back a bit, so let's just try again. No, I think that's gone too far. Let's try again. Okay, so there's 1. So I leave a 5, leave a 4, leave a 3, there's 1, and there's 2. Let's try again. There's 5. There's 4. Okay, so it's just jumped now. So the back 3 levers there were just being a little sticky with being in the right position, but I've just managed to nudge them in with a bit of gentle tension and working them backwards and forwards, and now we're probably just stuck on these front 2 levers. So let's lift lever 1 up. It's nice and bound. It's going to go up to an anti-pick notch, and then it's going to go above, which is what it's just done. Let's go to lever 2, anti-pick notch and above. Okay, and we're open. So yeah, so that took a little bit of a while there, but as you can see, I worked through the problems. I knew that the levers by the angle of the puck were potentially overlifting a little bit and going into the anti-pick notch on the back. But once I worked that out, I could then go back and pick them over and over again and get that little jump on the bolt, which was missing. And once that jump was there, we then knew that we could work on the 2 levers at the front, which were in fact the same, and they're both a high lift. In other words, the anti-pick notch was before the true gate. So, okay, well, that's 25 minutes of a little bit more about the Fortress, and there's plenty more about this lock. It's a good lock to master. And then, of course, then once this is mastered, then the next lock really is the Strongbolt version of this, which picks slightly differently. You don't get this jump in quite the same way as you do with the Fortress, but the theory is exactly the same, and the way that you lift the levers and the way that you decode the levers is exactly the same as well. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. Cheers. Please do give me some feedback, by the way. It would be much appreciated. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now.